Good morning, Chenedu Michael.
Good morning, wherever you're watching us from. Good evening. Good afternoon.
Okay, let us quickly look at federal government declaring about 97 persons wanted for terrorism-related allegations. And we understand that Simon Ekpa featured prominently. He looked as if he's the number one on the list.
Of course, from what we are getting, from the briefs we are getting, it's like Simon Ekpa was used to headline those lists released by the defense headquarters. But the facts still remain, until a process is being established, either through court or an overwhelming evidence is being produced in the court before we can conclude that yes, these are suspects of terror in that regard. But the truth is this, let me just use Simon Ekpa as a reference point to others where we have most of them are from the northern part of the Nigeria, whether they are in the country or outside the country. That will be established later. But the federal government recently, published names of terrorists, people who are sponsoring terror in Nigeria, and most of them are all northerners. But the fact is this: if you look at what is happening in some part of the north, where Boko Haram bandits are, having a running day on daily basis, killing and destroying properties, including farmland and the rest. What is actually what they are asking for, is another factor. Simon Ekpa, in this regard, I think to an extent, there's nothing connected to prove that he bears arms or he carry arms. That is the fact. Anybody that is saying that Simon Ekpa is a terrorist need to revisit and find out how he is a terrorist. For me, Simon Ekpa is not a terrorist, he's just a Biafran sympathizer. He's not a Biafran nationalist, somebody who believes that it is right for Biafra to be sovereign, to stay on their own, to have freedom from Nigeria. That is what he's advocating for. I don't know how that translates to terror and terrorism. That by the way, we also look at the federal government relationship in terms of extradition treaties.
So I was going there, but the first thing I want to ask is it not better that if someone is accused of crime or alleged to have committed crime, is it not better the person call home and clear his name?
Most of those things is used, like the case of Simon Ekpa, we know that is being used as a kind of intimidation, as a kind of to bring his morale down on what he believes in. Nowhere in the world where somebody is asking for freedom and somebody is coming to tag him, a terrorist. One, we have not seen him leading armed group against the government. We have not seen him, doing some kind of funny things that's been done in the north. I've not seen it. I've not seen that. But I don't know how they came to the conclusion that Simon Ekpa is a terrorist.
Don't you think the government is looking at the activities of some groups like ESN, which Simon Ekpa have oftentimes say he is maybe coordinating the activities? Don't you think that will influence the government decision?
See, let me tell you, the government is just being mischief or trying to, mismanage the truth. They are not factual in this regard. ESN has nothing to do with Simon Ekpa. ESN is purely an RPAB thing, to defend the Fulani herdsmen invasion in the entire Biafran land. That is the essence of
the question I wanted to ask is this, because I believe that federal government may have listened to some of his broadcasts where he may have given directive to maybe unknown or unspecified group of persons, and maybe they want to relate it to maybe the activities that is happening in the southeast and talking about insecurity, killing by unknown government and all that. Don't you think that may be the reason?
The insecurity we are talking about in the entire Biafran land, the entire eastern Nigeria, is just because of the illegal rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, how Nnamdi Kanu was being kidnapped in Kenya and brought back, forcefully to Nigeria. You understand? That was what led to the insecurity. It's not about Simon Ekpa.
No, we focus on that. But the question I want to ask is, don't you think the activities of the unknown government in the southeast, perhaps the federal government is looking into Simon Ekpa? Don't you think so?
Well, I don't think that assertion is correct. I don't think that connection, what they're trying to build up, what they're trying to create, to link it to the issue of insecurity in Nigeria, to that of whatever Simon Ekpa is saying. That is not correct. The fact remains is that the way and manner of which Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped in Kenya and brought back to Nigeria, fueled certain people who believe in nationalists, who believe in what he's doing, that this is just purely a slap, on the eastern Nigeria, and a threat to their sovereignty and their freedom. So you know what that thing means. They saw it as something that is inhuman to do, and the federal government carried that action. You can see what Femi Adesina wrote, how they all sat down in one office in Abuja and planned how to kill Nnamdi Kanu. I'm coming.
We'll give time to Nnamdi Kanu's conversation. But the question I want to ask you, are you worried about the level of insecurity in the southeast?
You can see what,
as a person, are you worried?
Why shouldn't I be worried? I have always at a point, kicked against the issue of sit-at-home, because that was draining the economy of the eastern Nigeria, and of course the Biafran land as a whole. I was against it. That is the extent I started having issues, with some directives that come from a sideliner. Let me just put it that way. That claimed that he's in Finland, called Simon Ekpa, when he started making some. Of course, the organizers came up and stood against it. A lot of people said no. Even Nnamdi Kanu wrote from the custody that he did not authorize anybody. That everything about sit-at-home should come to an end. And you see what Nnamdi Kanu said recently in his last presence in the court, where he made it very clearly that nobody should take it for granted, that he wants the issue of insecurity, kidnap, all those things that are happening, including sit-at-home, to come to be stopped.
Now, before we go to Nnamdi Kanu's angle, let me ask this last question on Simon Ekpa. Now, Simon Ekpa is in Finland. And we understand that Nigeria do not have extradition treaty with Finland. Does it mean Nigerian government will be looking at luring Simon Ekpa out of Finland to possibly a place where a country where they have an extradition treaty with? Or how do they hope to get at him?
This is not the first time they are also informing the government of the Finnish government, on what to do. The head of Simon Ekpa is highly needed. This is not the first time. It has been happening over and over again. But where I'm having some reservation, but currently now, I don't think the federal government has a extradition treaty with Finland, and that's where the bulk of the matter is. As I'm talking to you now, Simon Ekpa is well known in Finland. There's no doubt about that. You understand? He's involved in the system. He's involved in the government. He's very close to the Finnish government. So he understands. He understands his position, on Biafran agitation, and of course his relationship with the Finnish government. And that is, by the way. And recently, we had a kind of bilateral relationship, Finland bilateral relationship on education, and the Finnish government actually endorsed giving educational support to Biafrans in the eastern Nigeria, and it has been building certain relationship, bilateral relationship, based on the coming of Biafra, so to say. But the fact still remains that the federal government will find it very difficult, to get any extraditory or extradition order, treaty, or whatever, from Finnish government. It's not going to work, because
now, lastly on this, that even if we have a extradition treaty with Finland, before you extradite an individual, even if he's your citizen, you need to go to their court to argue justification behind the extradition. Do you think if Nigerian government were to go to a Finnish court to argue extradition of Simon Ekpa, that they will have justification behind such conversation.
That will be automatically out of place because Simon Ekpa has already denounced his citizenship to Nigeria.
Is it material?
No, but I'm telling you, if I look at it from that angle, you understand? I think he has that, it's his fundamental right, you know, to claim his state of origin, you know, where he comes from. He can decide to say, I'm not a Nigerian. It's correct, and he can process those documents. But the fact is still remains that if Nigerian government happens to get manipulate or whatever, because if you want to talk about treaty now, it will take a kind of process, you know, to get it materialized. But as it stands now, you know, if they want to do that, of course, it's going to be a battle between the Finnish government and a Biafran citizen, not a Nigerian citizen.
We'll have conversation on that next time, because I understand that as it stands today, even if there's a agitation for the sovereign state of Biafra, then southeastern part of the country is still part of Nigeria.
Okay. Let me just respond to that. You know, I don't think that somebody can decide to claim where he belongs or where he feels he belongs. Simon Ekpa for a very long time has renounced anything that has to do with Nigeria for a very long time. I'm not even sure whether he is still using Nigerian passport, you know. So on that note, I still think that Nigeria will find it very difficult, you know, this is not the first time now. I think
So
sometime few years ago.
let me take it to another angle.